everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist, guitar player, vocalist, and so much more for Coyote Theory, Grayson Hendren. Yay!
How's it going?
Outstanding, outstanding. So Grayson, you've got some exciting stuff happening just earlier this year. We definitely want to talk about that, but we always like to go to the past. How did you get started in music and particularly on bass?
So fifth grade, one of my best friends had just gotten like a PV starter pack for a Strat. And so we were on a field trip somewhere and he was like, you should play bass. And he showed me the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And obviously as like a 12-year-old, that blew my mind. And so I begged for a bass to start on. And somehow I got a guitar first. But when I transitioned into bass seriously in high school, yeah, it really just that's been my go-to and my favorite instrument to play since then.
Very
Yeah.
nice. And are you self-taught or have you pursued further studies?
Largely self-taught. I did take some lessons in high school. I did jazz band and like some classical stuff. So, like I have a bit of that. And then from time to time, Scott's bass lessons. Like there's a ton of good stuff out there, if you want to progress. Yeah.
Well, there's definitely a wealth of information on the internet that people nowadays have at their fingertips, whereas back in the day, you could be pretty isolated unless you had a good teacher. Now, Coyote Theory, you guys have been together, I believe you'd said since 2010, so you've been at this for a while. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about the group, and I know you guys have a new album that just dropped earlier this year still.
Yeah. As you said, started in 2010. We recorded our EP the following year in 2011, and we played pretty consistently through 2014 or so. And then, kind of went on a hiatus for a bit. But it's funny the way the world works because, at that time, people, I don't know if they really cared, but 2018, we started seeing our Spotify pick up and people were listening more and being like, are you guys going to do more music? And so we're kind of all over the country at that point. And so we were like, yeah, maybe we should like give this another go. 2020 hits and COVID comes on and TikTok and whatever. And so again, it's been such a blessing that people like what we do, but it blew up on that app. And so it's really afforded us the opportunity to like continue to do this and have a lot of longevity and kind of build it into a bigger community and a career. And so that ultimately led to still kind of took us, because honestly 2020 took us totally by surprise. We weren't prepared for that at all. We were just kind of like sending demos back and forth and working on it together, but we're like in the midst of recording. And so obviously that record was recorded at home. We're in my studio right now. And so everybody kind of has their own setup. And so we had just finished that and our label Network approached us. And so we signed with them. And so that's still is out on Network and they've been great to work with. I have nothing but great things to say about them. But yeah, still has been kind of a compilation of the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years worth of music and some demos that just didn't make the cut when we were doing stuff earlier. And so it's been really rewarding having finished that and gotten it out, gotten it across the finish line. And I think so far seems like people like it. So that's always good.
Very cool. Well, and you guys are a trio, and I'm always impressed because a three-legged stool is very stable. With trios, you guys generate an awful lot of sound, and I'm sure possibly part of this is how you're engineering and working all of the tunes. But how does your songwriting process happen? Everybody kind of pitching in, or how do you go about putting together something like this?
Yeah, so we've been starting to do kind of writing retreats, but a lot of still was, I there's some songs that were mine on there, and there were some songs that are another guy's. And so, I'll bring in, for example, a bass idea, we'll call it the bones. And so my demo is going to be different than the final product because everybody's going to put their part on it and make it what it is, but kind of like you're leading the pack on your song, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean, it's cool having everybody be capable of writing and doing stuff like that to be able to make what we make.
Nice. Well, and it definitely has a feel. Your music falls. It's always funny how they have to put things in a pigeonhole, kind of alt pop. So it's got a lot of possibilities where it can kind of go popish, but it's a lot different than alt regular pop.
I mean, I think we really love music, and so we listen to a ton of stuff. It ranges anything from like Latin music to all the way to like metal to like whatever. It's and so I think a lot of that stuff comes out in our playing, and ultimately I feel like at this point we've created our own subconscious lens of how the music comes out, because even if there are these influences, it still comes out Coyote Theory.
Nice. Well, and it's probably a good time since we're seeing the bass behind you. We should talk how you get your sound. What are you playing on and how are you getting your sound?
Okay, so on the record, I kind of fluctuate in phases of round wound and flat wound. So a lot of still was recorded on round wounds. And so it would have been on this bass. This is a made in Japan Fender P bass. This is my Charles Barkley bass. It's all Phoenix Suns out. And I'm not even really that big into basketball, but I had a Michael Jordan Strat. But yeah, this was the brunt of it. This was everything. And so I ran I ran a couple of compressors. So I have this Templo Devices compressor that I'll run, and pretty amazing for a small package like that, because like I don't have outboard gear. I have an Apollo Twin for that, and then I'm also let me
The trusty Rickenbacker.
yeah. Well, but I also am using this a Mesa Prodigy
Okay.
tube amp, and so it has a record out on it, and it's been really sweet. And so that's a lot of the sound and tone of the record. But yeah, recently I got this Rickenbacker, and so it also flat wounds. I'm in a flat wound phase. So one of I guess a big inspiration is I Love the Wings era of Paul McCartney's career.
Mhm.
Probably one of my favorite bands. So yeah, that's kind of what that's modeled after. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of it we did 2 tracks with an amp and then DI, and so yeah,
Very
nothing
nice.
crazy.
Well, and flat wounds, they feel good. I mean, they've got that nice, smooth, kind of sexy feel when you're playing, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So as we look ahead, again, you guys have the album that released. Do you have any touring plans? What's in the works for the future?
We are working on getting our toes wet. I think we're shooting for some shows later this year. We've been kind of pitching ourselves for different lengths of opening for a tour or whatever. But I think ultimately, what I think we're going to start with is hopefully a hometown show in Orlando. We have a ton of friends there, and it just kind of seems like the right thing to do because we haven't played live probably since 2014 or so,
Wow.
like all together. I think everybody's kind of played in different projects since then and played. But yeah, I think kind of coming home and doing it there is going to be a start. And so we'll see. We have kind of started writing, and we've kind of fallen into a good group of songs for our next record. And so that's kind of been surprisingly fast because I feel like we worked on this last record up until last year. And so, yeah, it's been pretty busy for us.
Very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Well, and if people want to know where you're going to be or what you're doing, because I know there's still a lot up in the air, where's the best place for them to look?
I would say Instagram or our website, coyotetheory.com. Should have you pretty well set. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Grayson, lots of exciting things happening. Folks, you've seen him here on Bass Musician Magazine, Grayson Hendren.